feel like I go through this little ritual when I get up here, trying to get everything organized. All right, we had discussed for several weeks about creation evolution. Of course, the past couple of weeks, I was gone 1 week. We had singing 1 week. I think we had the young adults or the young men 1 week. But we spent 5, 6, 7 weeks on creation evolution. Now tonight, change gears a little bit. And here's another subject. Now, I don't know how many weeks we'll spend on it. May end up just being tonight, maybe 2 or 3. But I want to take this part and do it as a discussion like we've been doing during this part of it. And then we'll extend the invitation at the end. And it got brought up because of a discussion a few weeks ago. Time gets away from me. I was going to say last week, but I think it's actually been 2 or 3 weeks now. And that led to this study. I want us to talk about Islam versus Christianity. Islam versus Christianity. And that's the point of it. Someone said, isn't that political? No, at least not the way I'm going to discuss it. It's a religion. Christianity's a religion. Are they compatible? Does it matter? How do we handle it as Christians? On and on it goes. So I thought what we'd do is tonight at least talk a little bit about what it is, how it got started, and we'll see where that goes in our study as we look through it. Again, the material I have may get through it tonight, may take 2 or 3 Sundays. Could be more depending on your interest and any questions if we get any in the box or anything. But I do know this. We may think we won't have to deal with it here in Middleton, and maybe some of us won't. But some of us might. At the rate it's growing, it is the fastest growing religion in the world. It is the fastest growing religion in the United States of America. It's not even close. Not even close. The fastest growing in Europe, and it's not even close. It's exploded in its rate of growth the past 10 to 20 years. And so places that thought, it doesn't affect me, it ended up affecting them. And so knowledge can be power, especially for Christians. And so I want us to think about that as we discuss this. First of all, to get very basic, to the very beginning, Islam had its beginning in Arabia, southwestern Asia. Of course, we know Muhammad is the one who got it started. He was born in 570 A.D. He didn't start out very influential the first half of his life, but it changed. He was born in Mecca, as a matter of fact, 570 A.D. When you think about Islam, Islam is the name of the religion, just like we think about Christianity. Individually, we're called Christians. They're called Muslims. Some, not as many now, but some have thought, well, Arabs are Muslim. Well, many are, but not all. Muslim is the religious identity. Arab is an ethnic identity. Not all Arabs are Muslims, not all Muslims are Arab. Although many are, not all by any stretch. There are a lot of places where a lot of Arabs are Christians, at least as the world uses it in the more general term, or even Hindus or Buddhists or others. But a lot of them are Muslim. Muhammad was 40 years old when he received his calling from God, as he called it. So he's 40 years old, and he said he's received this vision, this calling from God to be a special prophet. And that's where it begins. The Quran, of course, is, lack of a better term, their Bible, isn't it? And the word Quran means word of Allah. And so word of Allah, the Quran, a collection of passages revealed to Muhammad, this is what he says, revealed to Muhammad from Allah over a period of about 22 years as his special prophet. And so he gathers these writings, he says, from these prophecies and these visions from God over this 2-decade plus period, 22 years. And he has them all, but he was illiterate. So he had to get others to write it down. Many of them later, well, I had this vision 10 years ago, write it down. So it gets very confusing sometimes. But the Quran, of course, is their main book. It's not their only book. They use the hadiths, which are writings also that come from different sayings of him. That is, not from Allah to him, just Muhammad's own sayings and some of his own actions. So sometimes they'll quote from that as well. Instead of chapters, and the Quran does contain 114 chapters, they call them surahs, or some say surahs. I think surahs is probably more accurate. But something interesting about it, Muhammad taught from the very beginning that to die for Allah, to die for Islam, meant paradise for eternity. That was one of his core teachings from the beginning. To die for the cause of Islam, to die as a Muslim, to die for Allah, meant paradise. That is still ingrained in them to the core. That to die for that is an honor. Matter of fact, one of the highest, if not the highest honor that they could have. So that explains some of the things when we don't understand, well, why would they do this or say this or how could this happen? Well, that's all they've ever heard. To die for this cause means paradise for eternity. Followers of Islam, as we said, are called Muslims. Muslims means those who submit. Islam, what have we been told many times Islam means, that the word means? Many say it means peace, but the word means submission. Islam, submission. And then Muslims, those who submit, to put it in, I guess, our language. So Islam, submission. Muslims, those who submit. Those who say it means peace, that's not what it's meant or ever meant. You don't have to dig deep to find that. Worldwide. Well, let me ask you, how many Muslims have you heard, or maybe you already know, approximately how many Muslims worldwide? How many? 2.1 billion. Maybe just a hair under, but right at 2.1 billion. It's hard to believe, isn't it? That many. All right, what about in the United States? This gets a little harder because there are figures that vary, but a consensus, I say that, the closer I could get to a consensus, how many do you think they say are in the United States? Or again, maybe you know. About 6.5 million. Now some said up to 8.5 million. Some said as low as 5 million. But most seem to agree about 6.5 million Muslims in the United States. Few are concentrated to certain areas, but they're in every state. All 50 states have some Muslims. Their places of worship are called what? Mosque. Somebody said it. We call it a church building. They call it a mosque. In the United States, there are almost 4,000 mosques. That's a 1,000% increase in 35 years. So, again, it's exploded. Almost 4,000 mosques. It was kind of hard to find, again, a definitive answer on this, but at least 10 mosques in West Tennessee. Maybe more, but at least 10. And over 50 in the state of Tennessee. Again, it was hard to find a definitive number. Different sites had different numbers, but over 50 in the state of Tennessee, at least 10 in West Tennessee. I'll be honest, I don't know where one is in West Tennessee, but maybe I do remember one. I had forgot all about that. So at least one in Memphis. I had forgot about that. Anybody else where one is? Jackson has one? I should know that, but I wasn't aware of that. So at least 10 And I wouldn't doubt if there's more now. And where did? Mm-hmm. No. Okay. In Whiteville Correctional Facility. You know, that's one of the things I had listed here. In prisons, it is huge. Matter of fact, even in the United States, it far outnumbers Christianity, at least those who actually practice in most prisons. So that's kind of scary to me. Maybe that's overreaction, but again, we want to look at it from this standpoint. Islam and Christianity, are they compatible? And what do we mean by that? How do we handle that as Christians? That's what we want to talk about. And again, getting this knowledge can at least help us know a little bit and understand more about them. Some are saying there will be, regardless of the number, 6.5 million, 8 million, ever how many in the United States, some say within 10 years, that number, at least where it was projected, was trending towards being doubled. I think it slowed down now a lot, the rate of growth. But when you see places where they get a majority, again, look what happens. That's not being ugly. That's just look at it for yourself. I won't even say what it is. Anywhere where they become a majority, notice what happens. And Nigeria is one, but there are many others to consider. There are more Muslims in the United States than Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses combined. And I had that. That's a little dated because now they almost double them combined, how fast they're growing. There are 5 obligations every Muslim must meet. 5 obligations. Number 1, they must state aloud, there is, excuse me. They must state aloud, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. That has to be stated out loud, a confession, so to speak. You know, in Christianity, we have the confession of Christ as the Son of the living God. Well, theirs is, there's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. Another one is, they must pray 5 times daily. 5 times every day, facing Mecca. And those times are the same around the whole world. So when you think about that, that's Muslims all over the whole world at those 5 times a day who stop and pray. And wherever there's a mosque, they either play live music, if they have someone, but usually it's through loudspeakers. And they'll put them on the inside of the mosque, but almost always also on the outside of the mosque, and play it as loud as those who live around it can hear it. That way, those Muslims that maybe they're not at the mosque, but they can hear it from there, and they stop and pray at that time. So 5 times a day, when the music or the sayings play over the loudspeaker or the live music, they stop to pray. A third obligation, they have to give alms to the poor as a work of merit. Their system's not based on grace like the New Testament of Christ. And so giving alms is very important to their merit if they expect to be in paradise. That's something required of them, an obligation. Number 4, they have to observe, and it was just brought up, excuse me, the 9th month of the Muslim lunar year. Goodness. Sorry about that. It's all the Christmas sweets I've been eating that people have given me. It's going to get me. Number 4, must observe the 9th month of the Muslim lunar year, Ramadan, as a month of fasting. And that was just brought up a moment ago. Even in our jails and facilities right around here in Hardeman County, they have to honor that. And number 5, make at least one pilgrimage to Mecca, at least once during your lifetime. There are exceptions to that. If one is physically unable, if they're truly financially unable, they can get away without doing that and still be right or accepted. But if they're physically able, financially able, at least one trip to Mecca during their life. It's unofficial, but many of them do push it now, a sixth one. And again, emphasize it is unofficial, although many do push it. You must be involved in one way or another with jihad. What's jihad mean? Holy war. And again, it's unofficial. Not all do it, but some really push that, as that's one of those works of merit that you've got to be involved with, such as the giving of alms. 3 ways Islam grows. I found this interesting. One, you can be born into it, much like with the Jewish religion. You remember they were born a Jew. And so if they were born a Jew, they were brought up that way, they were a Jew. In Christianity, you have to be born again. But born a Jew. Well, Islam, you're born into it. That's one way they grow. Another way is through all the mosques that they build around the world. And they reach out from there to teach and convert. The way they do with ever how they do it, but that's the point of the mosque. Yes, to worship, but get them there. Get people to the mosque. And then the third way that they grow is by conquering or intimidation. To try and force one into it. So there's the three main ways they grow. I'll say this, whatever they're doing, we just said they're the fastest growing religion in the world, fastest growing religion in the United States. So whatever they're doing, they're growing. Whichever one of those three or all three, they're definitely growing. And they're outgrowing Christianity by leaps and bounds in many places. What about, just for a few more minutes, and we'll definitely have enough for at least one more lesson, what about some differences between, now that we've kind of laid the groundwork or a foundation, some differences between Christianity and Islam? And the first one, let's focus on Allah versus the God of the Bible. And to me, that's interesting because they say we worship the same God. Allah's the same God. We're worshiping the same God. Yes, it's Allah, but it's the God of the Bible. They say it is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But that's not really true, is it? They emphasize more Ishmael, and he's the son of promise, not Isaac. And they claim it's the same God, but they don't portray him the same, describe him the same. He doesn't act the same as the God of the Bible. And so the idea of them thinking of God as a father, they don't look at him like that in Islam. Having a personal relationship with him, they don't look at him like that. Yet the Bible teaches that relationship we can have. They do believe in one God, but it's not the God of the Bible, contrary to what is said, because he's not described the same. He's not looked at the same. He doesn't treat them the same. The relationship's not the same. So if that's the case, it's hard to say it's the same God. They don't speak of God as loving or them loving him necessarily. They do speak a lot about fearing God. And that's very big, to fear God, to have that fear of him. So we want to be right with him. We want to do this. We fear him. And there is a sense, isn't there? Even the Bible does teach, if we're not right with God, we should fear him. But they're supposedly right with Allah, yet they still have that fear of him. As Christians, we have a reverential awe for God, but we don't have to live in fear of God if we're a Christian, not like the lost do. He says to the lost, yes, it is a fearful thing, fall into the hands of the living God. But that's not written to the faithful Christian. Not if we're faithful. We have a reverential awe and a deep respect, but we don't have that fear of him, where I'm just afraid of him in that sense. But that's how they speak of him in their system, of fearing God and not that loving relationship. Their system depends on, again, works, not grace. Yet we know with true New Testament Christianity, without grace, nobody's going to be saved. We have no hope without grace. Theirs is no grace, it's works of merit. You give those alms, you do this, you give, in other words, you can earn it, so to speak. It's based on works. Works are a part of New Testament Christianity. But without the foundation of God's grace, we're lost. His grace is how we're saved. God's grace, man's faith. His part, our part. And without his part, our part can accomplish nothing. They say no, it's based on works. Anybody have a thought? I've flown through a lot of that. Just to slow down before we close for a few minutes. It's almost as if we invented him and he's our God, but Allah is the true God. And that's why that's a good point, because we need to show others the Bible teaches the gospel is for all. That Christianity is for everyone. That Jesus invites all. And it's not just invented by one race to save one race. The gospel is for everyone to be saved. And even Paul emphasized in his sermon, he is made of one blood, every nation. In other words, we're all the same. And yet they will appeal to that and try to pit you against it. We've got to emphasize and know the scriptures enough to show people not only is the gospel for all, Jesus calls everyone. And he didn't distinguish. You remember many of his parables? The hero wouldn't be a Jew. The hero wouldn't be a Gentile. Who was the hero in many of Jesus' parables? A Samaritan. Because the Jews hated the Samaritans above everyone. They hated the Gentiles, and they'd even pray, thank you, God, I'm not a Gentile. Well, especially thank you, I'm not a Samaritan. Samaritans were kind of that mixture, weren't they? And they hated them. And so Jesus would make them the hero of his parables to show them you better love everybody. Jew, Gentile, and Samaritan. Love everyone. And we've got to make sure they know that Muslims and atheists and Hindus, Buddhists, Jews, everyone, that the gospel's for all. That Jesus died for everyone, tasted death for every man, and not let them push that belief. Man, just in one city or one county there. So you see it's growing, and it's not as far away as you think. And we'll talk more about it either next week or the next, depending on how long we go. Can they be converted? If so, how? What? Some say, boy, it's hard. Well, I've studied with Catholics. That's hard. If you've ever studied with a Catholic, I'll give them two things. At least the ones I studied with. They knew what they believed and why they believed it. And I mean, they knew it. And they were committed to it. So a lot are hard to convert. We can't let that be an excuse. And I've known some missionaries who have had luck converting some Muslims. And they'll tell you it's hard, but not impossible. So, but that'll be another lesson. But yeah, that's more than I thought. So 10 in Memphis, 10 mosques, and 20,000 Muslims. Anybody else? Yes. That's right. Well, once they broke off with Ishmael, they say that they do follow the true God of Abraham, Allah. But they change it to that because they claim the Bible and the Talmud and all these other Jewish writings and all these other Christian writings. They've all been so corrupted. And the Quran came along later and is trustworthy. And yeah, he was a great prophet. Yeah, Muhammad was the last prophet and the greatest. And Jesus may have been right below him, but he's below him. We'll talk more about that next week too. Jesus, they do honor him as a great prophet, but not divine. And they say, you can't trust the Bible, it's too corrupted. Kind of like the Mormons. They say, yeah, we follow the Book of Mormon and the Bible. But if you really push them, they follow the Book of Mormon because they say the Bible's too corrupted. Well, that's what the Islam, at least those who are really studied in it, we trust the Quran and what it says about God and Jesus, which ends up being Allah instead of God of the Bible, because the Bible's too corrupted. And the Jewish writings are too corrupted. That's always their out to do that. Even though there's more proof of the inspiration of the Bible because it's from God. Now, obviously, you'd have more proof than the Quran would. Large portion, just very briefly, and we'll close. Very briefly, large portions of the Quran are almost verbatim copied from parts of the old Jewish Bible and parts of the Old Testament, and even a little bit of the New Testament. So you can tell which one was first for them to be able to copy chunks of it like that. So that makes it interesting. Well, what we'll do, Lord willing, next week, Lord willing, we'll try to dig into it a little more. And now that we've got a groundwork, be able to have more discussion. Near the end, you saw we had a little more. But I want us to really dig into this and be studying on this for next time. The Quran versus the Bible. Really dig into that. And Jesus versus Muhammad. Those are the two areas we'll try to really focus on, Lord willing, next week. As we said a moment ago when we go to the invitation, the gospel is for all. That's the beauty of the gospel. That's the beauty of Jesus shedding his blood. He didn't just shed his blood for the Jews. He didn't just shed his blood for the Gentiles. He shed his blood for everyone. He died so that we could be saved. Humans. He doesn't care who it is. He doesn't care what color we are, what language we speak, what our background is, what we've done. If we'll repent and come to him, we can be forgiven. Think about that. Where else can you have that kind of hope? To have a fresh start, to be forgiven, to have a hope of heaven. It is only through Jesus Christ. There is no other way and no other hope. If you've never obeyed the gospel, do it tonight. That's the only way to have true hope, peace, happiness, and forgiveness, through the precious blood of Christ. We contacted in baptism, Romans 6, 3, and 4. If you need to do that, do it tonight. If you've done that but fallen, come home tonight. Don't risk eternity on, well, I'll do it later. I'll take care of it one day. That day may never come. If you need to take care of it, please do it tonight as we stand, as we sing.